Business owners, that's exactly what I've heard from the American National Standards Institute. My name is Daryl Guberman. I'm the CEO of Guberman-PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. I have assisted companies in manufacturing and quality and also ISO certification, all derivatives. With the quality and manufacturing, also special processes. In June of this year, we wanted to clean the mess that exists in the American National Standards Institute, the American National Accrediting Board, and also the IF, the International Accreditation Form. I put in a 54-page document, so I'm going to show you this. Why, if they come up with Guberman is a sour grape, let me just show you this. I'm going to show you what their mission statement is. I'm going to let you listen to their mission statement. But we put a 54-page document in of submission. Nobody has ever done that. Nobody shall, and nobody will ever. I put a 54-page document into submission for ANSI. In order for me to do this, I had to read their code of ethics, something that most of them have no clue. On the board, such as Russ Chaney, Jameson Carroll, their attorney, and of course, Joe Batia, their CEO. So I put this document in. We had to answer 9 questions that said, what is Daryl Guberman? What can Daryl Guberman bring to the table of ANSI? Well, number 1, integrity. Number 2, honesty. And number 3, the truth. Integrity, honesty, and the truth. Yes, we can bring that. They don't want that. What they want is something else, and you will hear that out of Russ Chaney's own mouth, who at the time he said this to me was the chairman. So I read the code of ethics and, the code of conduct and all that, and he broke every one of them. And to make matters worse, Jameson Carroll, the attorney, played deaf, dumb, and blind to the situation. So let me continue on. At the end of these 9 questions, there was a nice little congratulatory sentence from Russ Chaney that said, the committee appreciates your interest in serving in an ANSI leadership position and your willingness to provide us this additional information. Russ Chaney, chair of the ANSI 2022 Nominating Committee. And we have a very special guest because right now there is a representative from NSF International, which is an accreditation body, and whatever else that they want to be for that certain time. We have a Jessica Evans on board of ANSI's management or ANSI's board of directors. And we have a very special guest here. We have a Mr. Kevin Lawlor. And yes, do you see this? At the time he was making that, it was called a royalty payment. A royalty payment is a non-taxable payment, basically. Nobody from ANSI has ever answered that, and that's since 2017. For 5 years, they've never answered that, nor will they. This video today is about ANSI's mission statement, half a nut, fuck you, by Russ Chaney, chairman, silenced by corporate member Kevin Lawlor, NSF International. Kevin, sit down, please. We'll bring you back out later. In 2013, I gave a speech at the American Society for Quality. I've told you this time and time again. In fact, this will probably be my last video that I do this because I've done it in many videos exposing these the CEOs and also secretaries on our government organizations. I am going to show you this once again because Kevin may not know. In 2013, Mr. David Levy, a Region 3 director from the American Society for Quality, came to see me give a speech at the Fairfield County and New Haven County branches of the ASQ. The American Society for Quality, at the time, owned the American National Accrediting Board, ANAB, 50%. You also have ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, owned ANAB, 50%. Dave Levy, Region 3 Director, he's got some weight. He was sent there not to disparage me, but to discredit me, which he didn't do, as you can see from what he said down below. I'm not going to read it. All I'm going to say is, ANAB has no problem with what you're doing. In fact, we support you, sir. He didn't push that up the chain of command, I assure you that. Now he wishes he did, because what they've done to me is made a force to be reckoned with, as Randy Dory said about one of his shills. We'll just tell you some more. So that's 2013. In 2016, Randy Dory, who was at the time the technical advisor for ANAB, he also sat on the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware. okay, and the 990 form, he was the treasurer and also principal on that form. He stated, okay, and this is where the other 50% of approval comes in. He said, but we recognize and accept that there are conformity assessment bodies and accreditation bodies, such as your body and your accreditation body, that are not part of the ILAC and the IF and ILAC structure. We recognize and accept. What the hell does that mean? They accept. So you have Dave Levy in 2013, Region 3 Director, ASQ 50%. You have Randy Doherty, 2016. They recognize and accept. So we have 100% acceptance, but we wanted, even though they invited us, Randy did, we could either join ANAB or IAF or both. Even though he invited us, I will show you now in this flow chart that's coming up right after the first placard, I will show you why we did not join. We're proud Americans. Randy and the rest of these characters are not. I can almost guarantee it by them being so involved with communist China. I am calling them out as Americans because I can prove otherwise. Really, when you have them so deeply immersed. And I'll show you with Randy and his buddy, Zhao Jinwu. So let's continue on. Anyway, you have ANSI, which is a private not-for-profit corporation, non-government entity where people think it is. When you hear American National Standards Institute, it is not. It has both federal agencies and corporations on board protecting each other's tuchus. Here we go, business owners. In 2015, Randy Doherty was a vice president of ANAB, chairman of the IF, and he was also the principal in the IF tax firm. And the IF is incorporated in Delaware. He handed over leadership to Zhao Jinwu, who has been involved with our quality since 1994. And Zhao Jinwu is also the chairman of the China National Accreditation Services. On top of that, he's not chairman, but he's the chief executive. Let's get that right, in Beijing, China, for the China National Accreditation Services. He is mandated by Xi Jinping, president of China, to take your data from the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. You have federal agencies and corporations on board. One of the worst things, as we pulled information, we found out that there's 10 registration companies in China that can issue an ANAB accreditation. What's worse is this, business owners, you have the National Institute of Standards and Technology, part of the Department of Commerce, that sits on ANSI's board, who developed a process, actually a procedure, a certification for you business owners called NIST SP 800, which is for cybersecurity, based on ISO 27001 for cybersecurity. And NIST sits on ANSI ANAB, and between 2015 and 21, Zhao Jinwu had control and power over the IAF. And you will see here that ANSI and ANAB both sat on the IAF, cybersecurity issues. NIST sits on ANSI. And by the way, in 2013, the National Vulnerability Database, run by NIST no less, got hacked by China. And now our Congress and senators push that baloney. Well, maybe somebody's getting their palms greased, possibly. Also, we discovered that ANSI ANAB are underwriters for the IAF and ILAC, International Accreditation Form, and also the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. One last item I want to show you about Zhao Jinwu. Zhao Jinwu, we have a picture of him, it should be coming up. Zhao Jinwu, being the China National Accreditation Services chief executive. He was standing in Wuhan's laboratory, the one that may have released the COVID virus. And when you hear Pamela say what this video is basically based on is that, she said that from one laboratory to another, there's variances. You'll see that maybe that's what took care of Wuhan, China. I would presume so. So we have the fact that ANSI ANAB is an underwriter for the International Accreditation Form or the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. An underwriter, for those people who don't know, is any party that evaluates and assumes another party for risk for a fee. Here is the picture I told you about. We don't lie, we tell the facts. Here's Zhao Jinwu. When he was standing here in 2017, he was the chairman of the IAF, incorporated in Delaware, no less. And sitting on the IAF is Pakistan, Iran, Lockheed, ANSI-ASQ for information. Pakistan, who harbored Osama bin Laden. Iran, who admitted to harboring the terrorists for 9/11. Okay? I'm not saying about the people of those countries. I'm saying about the politicians. You have ANSI and ANAB sitting there. Also, Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin sitting on the IAF. Also sitting on ANSI. Got hacked in 2019, taking the F-35 fighter. 2012, a division of United Technologies, which does sit as well on ANSI, got hacked by China, Sikorsky Aircraft. In 2015, Lockheed buys Sikorsky Aircraft for $9 billion. And in the Connecticut Mirror, it stated, with China's okay, Lockheed Martin closes in on the purchase of Sikorsky Aircraft. You have Rosa DeLauro, Jim Hines, Richard Blumenthal, and Chris Murphy all say within the article that, "Raw Lockheed, hurrah for working with communist China." That's what they said. Not really what they said. You have to look at the sentence. Connecticut lawmakers approved Lockheed Martin for working with an international regulator. They changed it around, as the news writers do. But in essence, what it said is those four politicians approved Lockheed for working with a communist country. On top of it, we also go back in time just slightly a couple months ago. You have Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul, who I think all of these politicians give these questions that they're going to ask a person who they're going to inquisition, such as Anthony Fauci of the NIH. And by the way, let me just tell you this. Sitting on ANSI's board is NIH, CDC, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, USDA, FDA, FTC, DOJ, DOD, FBI, all of them. So Rand Paul asked Fauci if he knew anything about gain of function. I don't know anything about gain of function. Well, he lied. This is the second workshop. Without a doubt, this guy lied. This is the second workshop in Wuhan, China, and the first item here on the list is gain of function research. Isn't that a tender moment in a lying society? As I told you, you have Pakistan and you have Iran sitting on the IF. Also sitting there is ANSI-ASQ-ANAB, Lockheed Martin. So what I did was some customers of mine want to get ISO 17025 certified or registered. We looked up the data, and this is the title that came up in there, is that a lot of rejects have been happening in accredited labs. Marvin Schechter wrote in a 2011 report to the state of New York that he said, in fact, ASCLD Lab, which is on ANSI's board, which is controlled by ANAB, ANAB took that over, that laboratory, and ANAB itself does accreditation to laboratory, and also on board is A2LA. A2LA is also an accreditation body, which caused this whole hullabaloo about Russ Chaney calling me up as a chairman saying, "Half a nut, fuck you." And this is why we're doing this, because we applied for director at large. Russ Chaney was the chairman of the nomination committee. What do you think, business owners? Do you think this was fair? Do you think he's a manager? He's no manager. A good manager would have known his mistake, brought that individual into the office, said, "Congratulations, Daryl, we'd like to have you part of the team," and that would have been it. Instead, he used I don't know what he used, but it wasn't testosterone, that's for sure. Oh, how do we know? We don't know. Oh, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. But it is so disgusting. So you have Marvin Schechter saying this, that in fact, ASCLD Lab can more properly be described as a product service organization which sells for a fee a seal of approval. We dug deeper. We have a ton of rejected items under laboratory accreditation. We pulled a deposition, sounds like Anthony Fauci at the NIH, because as I said, they sit on ANSI with CDC and FDA and Pfizer and all the rest of that. We pulled this deposition from Pamela Sale, and this is why we connect the failure at the Wuhan lab, which is very easy to connect after she confesses that the certification that ANSI, ANAB, ASCLD, and A2LA give have been compromised in the fact of protocols. And listen to what she says. One of the issues that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards at ASCLD, at ANAB, at A2LA, etc., that forensic labs around the country have to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines that labs can choose to follow or not. Well, Kevin, do you like that so far? Did you know any of this? Probably not. Maybe so. Who knows? A2LA, I put this video up concerning A2LA sitting on ANSI's board. Also at the time, they were sitting on IAF, being controlled and manipulated by communist China in 2015 to 2021. After I exposed that, a Miss Ashley Morton, she's kind of camera shy, came out and wrote underneath my video that she said, A2LA does not sit on ANSI. They are both American ABs, accreditation bodies with equal standing. I put the video out, another one showing her this. And then I think what happened is she contacted Russ Chaney. Russ Chaney got contacted. And at the time, Russ Chaney was, yes, the chairman. And as I said, I've read the code of conduct for ANSI before I filled out anything and sent it in to them for nomination. I was, and still am, a nominee for ANSI's board. They have no representation of small mom and pop 4, 5, 6 person companies, which they need, because those are the backbone, really, if you think about it, those are the backbone of aerospace companies, of medical companies, etc. So he is the chairman. And Kevin, I'm going to let you listen to this again, because this is what Russ Chaney said. And hold on one second. And I want you to, excuse me, by the way, I want you to hear this, because this is really a disgusting display of ANSI gone wild.
Please leave a message and I'll return your call as soon as possible. Record your...
You don't have to hear it, but just once. You know, Kevin, I sent a letter to Joe Bathia, the CEO, not a leader at all. He reminds me of a dish rag. He sent it off to your lawyer, Jameson Carroll, who watches over ANSI-ANAB. And Jameson Carroll said, after analysis, we were unable to identify any harassing or objectionable content in the brief audio file provided. Well, it looks like he's a big liar. That's what they sent me back. So what I did is, upon application this year to the board of ANSI as a director at large, when I got that refusal letter back, I sent an email to Jameson Carroll, who wrote me back and said, if you have any correspondence, you send it directly to me. Why is that, Kevin? Because they don't want the mom and pop shops to know that ANSI, ANAB have 10 companies over registrars in China that can issue an ANAB accredited certification in China. They want you, the business owner, to think that they are American-based. The only American-based registrar accreditation body is our bodies. That's it. These guys, all they do is smile and collect that. And at the time, I think it was a royalty payment. He didn't have to pay taxes, from what I understand. So when we got refused and we got that letter from Jameson Carroll, we sent it to 100 different members on ANSI. We sent a second follow-up, and we ended with 148 bounce backs, the 100 that we sent, and 48 others that we never even emailed. So that's telling me that ANSI-ANAB does not want anybody to know about the situation, about Russ Chaney saying, half a nut, fuck you. I went to New York, and there's no signage outside ANSI. I also went down to Washington, D.C., the corporate office over there. And on Northwest L Street, 1899, again, there's no signage. I will say this. This is the sign that should be out there at ANSI. Half a nut, fuck you. And the reason why we say this to you, Kevin, and most of you will be, oh, what is he saying? Is this. When I worked for corporate America, we had some decorum. We had code of ethics that we were trained, human resources. I'm sure some of you have even gone to those trainings about how to present yourself in public to not defame or disparage or bring shame to the organization. Well, when Russ Chaney said this, okay, let's get him out here. When Russ Chaney said this as the chairman, he is the chairman 24/7. He's now the former chairman, and now he's the chairman of the nomination committee, which means, Kevin, that he is the representative, and thus this saying, ANSI says half a nut fuck you, is what I guess you condone, Kevin. You must condone it sitting on their board, your employee sitting there. And if NSF is sitting there, you know what they say? Birds of a feather flock together. Or is that what Russ Chaney would say? I think his words would be, birds of a feather are half a nut fuck you together. Yes. So we're telling you that. That's not me saying it. That's Russ Chaney, the former chairman, and your colleague, and your employee's colleague, Jessica. I leave it here, 203-556-1493, or Daryl, TQRS @yahoo.com. I thank you.